Hello and welcome. So this is a live stream for my new game, Moonflower. I am CL, the owner and lead developer of Cats and Lillipad Studios. This is my YouTube/Twitch channel, Coca Covers. I do not usually do live streams, so I am a little bit terrified, but let's get stuck into the game and I hope that this goes okay. I cannot see anything in my setup because my microphone is blocking one screen and I have the game on the other, so let's hope that this goes okay. The potion bubbled gently under the man's watchful eye. Off to a great start. The potion bubbled gently under the man's watchful eye, occasionally sending up tiny wisps of white steam that smelled faintly earthy. Skylar reached for it. It wasn't anything extravagant. Just a humble concoction of water, cucumber, and aloe vera. And yet it interested him greatly. The desired result was nothing more than a simple ointment, meant to heal major burns completely when applied directly to the skin. However, he smiled to himself as he emptied a small bowl of crushed sylvite into the mixture. The concoction began to freeze before his very eyes. The sudden drop in temperature sending quickly spreading stress fractures throughout the glass vial. It has been a long time since I've been able to record. Everything inside turned brittle in an instant, and it only took an instant more for the entire beaker to shatter with a deafening crack. Skylar watched on in fascination. A reaction like that wasn't unheard of. In fact, it's exactly what he was aiming for. An ointment that would continuously cool a burn site over an extended period of time. If it worked as expected, then it would no doubt become an incredible tool for the kingdom. However, simply dropping the sylvite into the potion, which in itself was a mineral only rarely found in the dried up ruins of ancient seas, caused a far too violent reaction. The freezing was too quick and far too powerful. But if I can achieve a similar result with a more readily available agent, something widely accessible that anyone could create with supplies found in their own home. He was certain, without a doubt, that sylvite could act as a stepping stone, a bridge towards a potent cooling balm that anyone could use, anyone could create. I wrote this. I know what it says. But for now, all he could note down was that sylvite was far too dangerous to be applied directly to the skin, For now, anyway. With deft hands, Skylar picked up an empty bottle and poured water into it. It sat still within the glass, unmoving, until he reached for a feather of a bird. The ingredients for a healing potion that's particularly potent and effective. Though, once again, difficult for a common person to create. After all, not everyone had an abundant stock of bird feathers just lying around. All he needed to do now was add sand, fire powder, and eucalyptus leaf. Get into the eucalypt, bro. 3 things he had ready in stock, but before he could gather the ingredients, a knock sounded at the door. Damn it all. Visitors always come at the worst times. With a small huff, Skylar placed the bottle back on the lab table and took a moment to compose himself. He straightened out his crimson red vest before heading towards the door to open it. I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. The perfectly put together woman smiled brightly at Skylar. Her blonde hair was done up neatly in a ponytail. Wavy strands fell down either side of her face, framing her brilliant pink eyes. The familiar sight of her made him smile as he stepped aside, allowing her to enter. Your Highness, you should have called in advance. He all but bowed down to the woman, who simply rolled her eyes and hit the top of his hat lightly with her gloved finger in response. Walking past the deeply bowing Skylar, she crossed the room, her hands carefully folded in front of her as she inspected the man's work. With a smile, she turned and looked back over her shoulder at Skylar, whose own gaze found hers instantly. Your Highness. And what shall I call you then? Would a high alchemist Skylar suit, good sir? If it pleases the lady, she may call me whatever she wishes. She laughed lightly at his response, as if the very notion was completely and utterly absurd. Stop with that nonsense, Nika. Hearing the use of his first name, he immediately raised an eyebrow, until he saw the smile that lit up the young princess's face. If it were anyone else. Did you come here to annoy me, my dearest princess? Or are you looking for something specific from your loyal servant this fine morning? Whatever I came here for, it certainly wasn't for you to annoy me, my dear alchemist friend. With a chuckle at her own jest, Olivia walked forward again to come face to face with Skylar, standing only the tiniest bit shorter than he did. She looked up into his eyes with a sly smile on her lips. See how foolish we sound being so formal? I'm not a princess here. I come as your friend. Skylar returned the girl's warm smile and nodded in response, letting out a small sigh of relief as he accepted the shift in conversation. I know. What brings you here then, Olivia? Come to request a potion? Or hear a story while you're passing through? None of those things this time. She shook her head, her hair swishing softly behind her like a silk ribbon caught in gentle breeze. Then to what do I owe the pleasure? Skylar dusted his hands off and leant against the table he'd only just been working at, giving Olivia his full attention. The young woman simply smiled, an apparent desire to extend the mysterious circumstances behind her visit, although Skylar already had a theory as to why she was here. What are you working on over there? Something new? She gestured towards a cracked vial with a raised eyebrow as she spoke. I can't help but notice it's, well, broken. Is that supposed to happen? You will not avoid my query with distraction, Olivia. But if you truly want to know, then yes. And no. How curious. Both yes and no? Please elaborate. The result of the broken vessel is expected, given the ingredients oh no. What a dumb word to not be able to say. Volatility. And yet, it is also not the desired result. The world's expression morphed into one of amazement. Her eyes widened as though he was speaking about a secret only shared in whispers. Inquisitive as ever, her thirst for the knowledge of discovery was surely inherited from her queen mother. Perhaps just humouring her for a short while will do no harm. A knowing glint in his eye, he directed the princess's attention to the equipment she had been previously inspecting. Would you care to take a look? Her eyes almost sparkled as the realization dawned on her that she was about to get a first-hand lesson by the famed alchemist himself. You would show me? You truly don't mind? Do you not wish me to? No, I read that backwards. Do you wish me not to? He knew very well she would not reject such an opportunity. Often scolded by her mind as a child for pestering the alchemist to share their secrets. Something she had never quite outgrown. Ha! Now that you've teased me with such a thing, you are required by law to follow through. Olivia folded her arms over her chest and nodded her head. Her stubborn declaration betrayed by the fact that she nearly vibrated with excitement. By law? How preposterous. Is that so, dear princess? I can't say it's a law I've ever heard of. But who am I to disagree with royalty? A hearty chuckle escaped him as his attentive student pretended she couldn't hear him. Once more, Skylar repeated his experiment, though this time being somewhat more sparing with his ingredients, lest he cause a royal incident that couldn't simply be explained away. And once more the vial began to shatter. Satisfied now? Now, princess, that's enough stalling. What is it you came here for? Surely you have better things to do than watch glass break. Much to no one's surprise, the woman ignored his second question. Tell me, why does it do such a thing? Such a destructive and immediate reaction. Unexpected but not desired. How so? How do you make it give you the desired result? What is the desired result? She had 1,000 questions at the tip of her tongue, all prepared to be instantly launched at her feline-featured friend. Expected but not desired indeed. Frowning lightly, Skylar returned to his rested position against a nearby desk, his ivory hand making a subtle ting as he retrieved a forgotten T from the desk's surface. You won't answer? Is sharing knowledge not the purpose of an alchemist? Her face drooped into a pout, a tried and true tactic on anyone else. I seem to recall an unanswered question of my own. The princess sighed and cleared her throat before continuing. Fine. You know why I'm here. I've come to ask you to the Moon Festival. Moonfair Festival. Oh no, I found a typo. I've already submitted the required materials for the ritual. You need not come here to ask. Oh, please. You know what I mean, Nika. She cut the man off sharply, lowering her eyes in a playfully contemptuous way. Why would I come all the way down here to ask for potions that I already know you're submitting? You're not the foolish type. Skylar sighed heavily as she continued talking, shaking his head slightly as he gave voice to his own thoughts. What was that? There was just some little pop that went off in my headphones just then. I don't know if you guys heard that. That was weird. He spoke without even thinking about it, merely stating the obvious. I'm not going. His tone was direct and definitive. Even he hadn't anticipated the sharp edge his words had once spoken. It would mean the world to my father, and to me, of course, if you would at least consider it. Mean a lot to the king. Mean a lot to a king whose council barely tolerates my existence. This thought he kept to himself, however. Olivia slowly bat her eyelashes towards him, a trick she often used to get what she wanted from potential suitors, guests at the kingdom, and even staff that waltzed around the palace halls. However, it was also a trick he knew well, and it had no effect on the High Alchemist. Skylar had known the princess for over 20 years, and he'd even given her pointers in the past on how to deal with unruly people. Still, it didn't stop her from trying to play coy with him every now and then, though never with any real success. As Skylar raised a brow and grinned, giving Olivia a look of disbelief as she made one last attempt to coax his participation into accepting her invitation. You truly have mastered the art of subtly getting what you want, my friend. But I will not put my personal comfort on the line just for appearances. You know how those nobles get. His nose scrunched up as he said that word, like he had just smelled something foul. There was nothing like the stench of high society nobility to make an otherwise perfectly good day turn sour. They swore me because I'm a feloness. It's rather vexing. You can hardly blame them. There aren't many of your kind left. There aren't very many left of your kind, so they're entranced. I do not think they mean to harm you in any way. Really? What about Lady Ogren, who always demands to be allowed to touch my tail? What of her? She offered the man a weak smile, but pursed her lips to speak nonetheless. I'll be by your side. You can be my personal guest. I dare any noble to speak out of place, with me in their presence. She grinned wider now, this time bearing some sparkling white teeth. Her eyes twinkled with challenge behind her long lashes as she looked back at Skylar. Duke Fargus owes us gold for a bridge we are funding for his nation, and Duchess Pellegrine needs our favour to help push forward a proposal she's drafting regarding magical law. Neither will push against me, lest they fall out of dear father's favour. And what of Lady Ogren? yeah, what about Lady Ogren? Lady Ogren sounds like a menace. Hardly a problem. Like a fly that only needs to be swatted away. She made the motion with her hand, swatting away an invisible bug. The princess gave him a confident nod, as if to say that such problems would never trouble him when he was at her side. This is a momentous occasion for the kingdom, but also for you and your studies. You deserve to be celebrated for your work, in person. And I could use the company, if I'm honest. She offered up that last part with a sheepish smile. A small, intrepid thing that was enough to pull at Skylar's heartstrings, more than her batting her eyelashes ever could. What do you say? Oh, please, Nika, join us. Skylar shut his eyes tightly, placing his index finger against the bridge of his nose. He inhaled sharply, drawing strength to give his answer. A simple and meek answer. Fine. Fine? The young princess's eyes lit up as she practically jumped up and down in place, leaning towards her longtime friend. Her cheeks were flushed pink with excitement, with a wide grin on her face as she stared at Skylar in disbelief. Did I hear you correctly? You did, but keep it up and I'll change my mind, change my answer. I'm doing this for you, but you'll owe me something in return. A favour. Of course. My resources are always at your disposal. You just need to ask. And I will. One day. However, Skylar was positive that even if he were dying, he would use all the resources at his disposal before thinking of requesting a favour from the princess. She was a dear friend to him, but even more so, she was one of the few people left in the world he cared about enough to suck up his pride and let himself be gawked over for a few hours by an endless parade of high society nobles. A few hours. It's just a few hours. That's all it will take to make her night, even if it means facing Lady Ogren and her ridiculous demands. Hopefully, I won't regret it. He raised both hands above his head in surrender as he said those words out loud, as well as to himself. He turned back to his workstation with another sigh as he began sorting through some potions on the table in front of him. Crack! A piercing shriek reverberated through the laboratory. Tiny projectiles rocketing through the space at an alarming speed. What was that? Her eyes wide, the girl retreated from the assorted equipment as though her very life flashed before her eyes. a sight Skylar could not help but smile at. What did you touch? What? Nothing! Of course she touched nothing. Forgive me, princess, but an opportunity such as that so rarely follows the delivery of a request such as you've had. Skylar approached the offending bench, picking up the remainder of a destroyed bottle. Ah, it would appear our little experiment has decided to demonstrate what happens when one does not pay enough attention to their surroundings. Olivia placed a hand over her racing heart, taking several deep breaths as she attempted to calm herself. You did that on purpose, didn't you? She wrinkled her nose at the alchemist. I'm quite certain I have done no such thing. Skylar shook his head. Olivia narrowed her gaze at him in suspicion for a moment longer before her expression shifted. You jest, princess. If I were to do something to put you in any sort of danger, the punishment would be severe. I don't wish for my head to be in a basket, particularly. I suppose you're right. Composing herself, Olivia approached the feloners cautiously. Today is not the day for such a fright, Nika. Skylar chuckled in response. Indeed, you are correct. Perhaps a lesson in indulging the requests of royalty? An offended gasp met his playful suggestion. I wouldn't go that far. An unexpected reaction from a harmless exercise, that's all. Incorrigible. Exactly like her mother. As you say, princess. Skylar glanced out of the corner of his eyes at the young woman as she struggled to contain herself. It only took their eyes meeting for her to erupt in giggles moments later. Oh, I do so enjoy your company, my dear friend. I suppose your presence is acceptable. Olivia playfully swatted at the older male's hat once more. How rude. Without me, you'd never leave this strange place. Without you, I never would have returned to this palace at all, Princess Olivia. She would never know that, of course. Strange is subjective, don't you think? Putting aside talk of that, though, I had a query. How fares the town preparations? Skylar brought a finger to his lips, deep in thought of the busy markets in the town below, which were probably even more busy with the upcoming celebration. The town? I can only assume it proceeds smoothly. I have not heard any reports otherwise. So I would like to believe that means it's all going well. Good. Good. Does something concern you, Nika? Concern? Of course not. I had thought to venture below to replenish some of my supplies. However... Olivia giggled knowingly. It was already obvious to the princess what was going on. However, you didn't want to get stuck engaging in celebration preparations. Skylar nodded solemnly. I think you should go. Nika, you might even find the markets fun. You do know what fun is, don't you? Lest I repeat myself, being gawked at by the citizenry is not my idea of fun. Olivia sighed, although her smile never left her face. At least you can go. Skylar offered her a sympathetic smile. Being princess in Moonseer came with many restrictions. While he was treated with fear, intrigue, and sometimes lust, Olivia was a precious doll to be displayed and immaculately maintained. It was an unlikely friendship between the pair, but one born of mutual societal pressure. Father will be curious as to where I've been all this time. I cannot stay. However, it has been great fun, as always. Perhaps next time you'll be visiting for pleasure and not the request of work. Skylar offered the girl a sly grin, and she giggled in response, nodding along in agreement. An innocent little motion of pure joy he wished she could spare on others aside from him, and a few other very special people. She had a wonderful laugh, like a light spring breeze whistling across a quiet blade after a long winter's nap. It was delightful. The sort of sound that filled any heart that heard it with warm satisfaction, despite... I said the washing machine make a bonk sound. Despite whatever troubles or concerns they might have faced that day. The princess was indeed good company. She was pleasant to spend time with, quick to laugh at a joke, and kind to everyone who came in contact with her. Perhaps so, High Alchemist Skylar. With her parting words left hanging in the air between them, Olivia slipped out of the room once more. Skylar stared at the door for a moment before returning his attention back to the potion he had left on his table, what felt like forever ago. An unsettled Skylar stood motionless in a deserted courtyard, worry etched into his otherwise soft features. He was apprehensive in a way he could not quite explain. More so than was reasonable for a simple festival. There was something sharp on the wind. The aura of the palace felt almost wrong somehow. Perhaps he was simply overly worried for his beloved princess. Sometimes he felt as he was the only one who actually genuinely cared for her as a person, beyond her title and birthright. Would that you were here, Vera. Your little girl could desperately use that support of her mother tonight. The felon's ears twitched. Slightly louder this time. Not even a moment to my own thoughts these days. Can I help you with something? A knight stood before him, a sudden shyness fallen over his features as the alchemist turned his attention to him. Cute boy! I love him so much. He was a late addition to the actual planned development. I added him after everything else because he's just so dang cute and I needed him. Sir, the princess has sent summons for your attendance at the commencement of the Moonflower ball, sir. Does he fear me, or is this stutter a natural one? Well, I suppose it matters not. It would not do to cause him to fail his mission by refusing. It seems the princess has doubts that I will keep my promise to her. I cannot say, sir. I jest, sir. The knight looked alarmed as he scrambled to answer, his words getting stuck in his throat. Wesley Siddle, my lord. Has no one ever asked this poor fellow his name before? Siddle. As in Knight Marshal Garrick Siddle. His son, sir. I see. This must be the youngest son of that pompous oaf. So the lower-ranked son gets sent on an errand. Well, Sir Wesley, you may tell Her Highness I will be along shortly. I wish but a few more moments to prepare myself for... He gestured weakly towards the ballroom. Yes, Lord High Alchemist, sir. He managed to say that without a stutter. Sir? It's making my sibilance so bad. Skylar glanced at the man. He was fidgeting and shifting feet as though he had something to say. Was there something else? No, not exactly, sir. I just... This is getting bothersome. Speak freely if you have something to say. The knight took a breath and nodded. I'm surprised to see you in attendance, sir. The staff and security were told you wouldn't be coming. It was not my first choice of activity tonight, or even my second. You may think a very persuasive princess for the change of plans. So Wesley smiled at that, all nervousness melting away. Oh, this is an interesting change. So the knight is interested in the princess. She's amazing, isn't she? She's not like the other nobles. She actually cares about the people around her, learns the names and families of all her attendants, even when the other nobles tell her not to bother. I don't blame you for not wanting to be around them. Not a fan of the nobility, then. You're not what I expected either, if it's okay to say, sir. Skylar shifted his stance to better see the young knight before him. Fluffy brown hair, freckles, and pale green eyes. He was cute by human standards. He couldn't help but wonder if Olivia had actually met this boy before. For he would have surely heard about him if she had. The visual inspections appeared to alarm Wesley even more, the boy rushing to explain himself. Wait, that came out wrong. It's just... Guards are taught to leave the alchemists alone. That they do important work, but... They are skilled and talented individuals in natural and scientific studies, but who have remarkably little social abilities? Wesley couldn't help but laugh. Yes, my lord. Exactly that. But more so... well, you're, not human. His statement was blunt and matter-of-fact. He knew exactly how the Knight Marshal, in particular, felt about him. The son of disaster, a non-human entity who must be closely monitored and little interaction given. His role as High Alchemist granted to him solely by demand of the Queen. Wesley nodded apologetically. Treated with either fear, disgust, or possibly the worst of all, something exotic to possess. Well, as you can see, you have nothing to fear in that regard. Me, however. He glanced towards the outer doors that could lead them through the main hall, throne room, and into the ballroom tonight's opening was being held in. His frown deeper the longer he looked. My lord? Schuyler snapped out of his daze. Sir Wesley? Might I escort you to the ball on behalf of Her Highness? Huh. Seems Cyril's youngest is actually quite sweet after all. You aren't worried about being gobbled up by the hungry nobles? No, sir. My older brother is the one of interest to them. I think I will be quite safe. It would be my honor, Lord High Alchemist, sir. A mouthful. The young knight looked up at him with a mix of innocent sincerity, slight worry of rejection, and pure hope in his eyes. He wasn't the tallest himself, and this young man was even shorter than he was. We've got a duo of short kings. Wesley's just the cutest. Perhaps there's hope for Olivia's guards yet. You can simply call me Lord Schuyler. Lord High Alchemist is far too long and pretentious. The young man nodded in acknowledgement and agreement. Well, very well, Sir Wesley. It would be my honor. The young knight bowed deeply before turning on his heel and marching towards the door. His enthusiasm was almost blinding. The muffled sound of a large crowd reached Schuyler from behind the intricate wooden doors of the middle ballroom. Here, the celebrations would begin. The aristocrats would arrive to enjoy some light refreshments alongside their noble companions before being welcomed by the king and other members of the court. Mixing and mingling was like a game of chess to them all. Every piece carefully planned out to maximize influence while maintaining political alliances. The celebration would last 1 week, ending on the night of the silver moon, where the moonseer would conduct a ritual to imbue the Moonflower with energy from the rare moon. The humans knew little about the why of these rituals, why each piece of this carefully crafted ceremony had to be just so. They simply learned enough to keep themselves in power, a power that was waning more and more each and every day. If the ritual failed, their very way of life, and maybe their lives themselves, would be over. Are you ready to enter, Lord Schuyler? No, but there are many things in life we must do before we're ready. Schuyler fiddled with the collar of his vest, adjusting and readjusting, knowing full well none of his actions made any difference. A soft rumble came as the ballroom doors were opened, revealing a scene filled with glittering lights, laughter, music, and conversation. I do find it curious, Sir Wesley. The young man glanced at him confused, maintaining a vigilant guard over his assumed charge. This is the rear door to this particular ballroom. Yes, sir. I thought maybe you would prefer to enter more discreetly than the main entrance. Indeed. I owe you my thanks for your foresight. Princess Olivia has a fine messenger at her disposal. I shall be sure to compliment your performance. After I have once more expressed my disapproval of being forced to attend such an event, of course. The knight smiled, unable to hide his blush at the thought of being complimented to the princess. Of course. It was my honor to escort you, my lord. Should you need anything else, you have but to ask. Another deep bow and the light was gone, consumed by the growing crowd filling the room. Surprisingly sweet, all things considered. Skylar made his way to a presently unoccupied corner of the larger room, his eyes drifting over the growing crowd. One thing about parties hosted by nobles, he could always get enjoyment out of what was the fashion. There were simple dresses, plain colours in modest styles, all the way up to dramatic gowns and experimental use of items attached to bonnets. Feathers and tulle, layers of sparkling stone, glimmering fabrics. Seemed every person present was dressed with intent. Gentlemen wore their finest suits and top hats, many sporting intricately designed monocles and expensive pocket watches. Each couple appeared to be attempting to outdress all others attending, to the point he wondered if there was some kind of prize for the most inventive outfit. It was a festival, after all. Perhaps it was an actual planned activity. As the venue filled, so too did Skylar's tolerance for the noise and crowd dissipate. He had had his fill of people watching. The grandeur may have been a fine sight to behold for many, but not him. It was easy for him to understand why people would want to celebrate during the Moon Fair. It was a festival specifically designed for celebration, and a rare one at that. Not a single person in this room was likely to have been alive at the last one. Even the royal family, whose connections to the Moonflower granted them extended lifespans, had all perished since the last celebration. The only soul that had seen the previous festival was himself. People enthusiastically gathered to see the magic of their kingdom replenished, to celebrate in history itself. Still, it didn't make the idea any less repulsive to the Feloness. Skylar could feel the anxiety and disdain rising within him. He understood the excitement. He felt it once himself, a mere child at the time. He had been in attendance at the last Moon Fair. He had witnessed the week-long fanfare, the rituals and the merrymaking, through all the glamour and breathtaking fascination, the picture of his mother's smiling face, the woman he adored most in the world. A sparkling smile, comparable to the crystal chandeliers, was always on her face. A smile he had not seen in nearly 90 years. A fact that had followed him every day since, but one that he hadn't had to experience so viscerally in years. A fact that only compounded his worry for the princess. Snapping his eyes to the doorway, Skylar began his search for the lovely Princess Olivia. Had she not coerced him to come, he could have simply left his academic contributions with the royal advisor and be done with it all. Hi! Yes, this is... Sorry, I've managed to move my OBS window down to my drawing tablet propped up against my monitor so I can actually see a chat, and I've just noticed. Yes, this is my visual novel, Moonflower. It has just released 2 days ago on Steam and Itch. And hello! Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I have absolutely no idea what the audio levels are like. Now, where could this troublesome princess be? As much as the Feloness complained about being convinced to attend, most of his bluster was merely for show. He would have been in attendance either way, just much less obviously. With his grand plan to protect his princess laid to ruin, he couldn't help but smile to himself as he scanned the crowd. If she did not have her unwavering sense of adventure and independence, he would have been sorely disappointed. Both their mothers were much the same, passionate, powerful women who possessed the strength and willpower to break through any barriers presented to them. His own was a driving force, a zeppelin with no brakes, and Queen Vera was a similarly a force and a fierce and headstrong individual. Neither had been seen in quite some time, unlike his mother, however. Queen Vera's fate was much more in the dark. He could only pray that she was safe. How she would have loved this festival. To see her little girl fulfill such a momentous role with such unshakable determination. After what felt like an eternity, even to him, his eyes finally landed on the woman he was searching for. A figure of absolute confidence, Olivia descended the main staircase, the crowd parting to watch her in awe. Oops. An adoration that would ruin anyone else. Several nobles gingerly stepped into her path, all wanting to be the first to greet her. Each one she politely thanked and excused herself from. She was looking for her escort, and could not keep him waiting a moment longer. Skylar shook his head, an exasperated expression settling over his features. She just has to stall the nobles, doesn't she? Luckily for him, or perhaps unluckily, he could never quite decide. His keen senses allowed him to hear each and every word. Shifting from his spot of mild safety, he caught the eyes of the princess across the room, her face lit up in recognition. Pushing aside the shocked nobles, the princess made a beeline for her favourite official. "Why, there you are. I've been looking all over for you." "Have you now?" "You seemed quite happy conversing with whoever that was in the bird's nest." Olivia made great effort not to break into giggles at his fashion critique. It's quite awful, isn't it? Indeed, but what would a festival be without questionable style choices? Shall we make our rounds? The princess linked her arm around Skylar's, her hand lightly brushing against the pristine ivory of his exposed limb. Her fascination with that arm is nothing if not baffling. She does not even realize her reactions. Do we have to? We do. Skylar groaned as he scanned the area. Very well. If we must. Come, it will be over before you know it. Doubtful. He muttered under his breath. He muttered under his breath, but the slight tilt of her lips told him she heard him quite well. The pair ventured into the crowd, Olivia manoeuvring with an effortless step, her experience and charm leading their way. Thousands of noble families, servants, and prolific members of the town flocked to the opening ceremonies. each hoping for a private audience with the royal family. 1, 2, 3. Hours... Hour after hour passed as Olivia and Skylar floated between attendees, exchanging small talk and pleasantries, each encounter more exhausting than the last. Most elected to ignore Skylar, their focus on the charismatic princess instead, something he was more than happy to allow. Others made attempts at polite small talk, exchanging a few words with the High Alchemist before running out of topics to fake interest in. Finally, the pair were left with two groups. The town mayor, and with him, an unknown elven scholar, and the family of one of the ministers. Mayor Rutherford was one of the few aristocrats who Skylar actually liked. He was a humble man, a merchant and farmer by trade. His family had a long history of friendly relations with the Fey nations, making it a secret mission of theirs to care for the land in ways that benefited the town and the Fey who secretly lived among the fields and forests. So, if you have played one of my other games, our Yowie Jam demo, Hard Agency, you might recognize this sprite silhouette. This belongs to Sterling, the manager from Hard Agency. We're using our assets cleverly. A delightful start to the celebrations, Your Highness. You even managed to get this grouch to attend. The gruff town leader chuckled, a gentle elbow digging into Skylar's side. Yes, gloat all you want. I would like to see you attempt to say no to royalty. Ha! Only you would try and resist the princess, my friend. And he did try, let me assure you. I shall go and greet the minister before it's time to make our final stop. I'll leave you two to chat. I'm sure you have much to discuss. Skylar nodded in agreement. A small mercy to avoid that. The mayor and Skylar had both bowed to the young royal as she separated from the group to attend to her other greetings. Say, Skylar. Skylar glanced at the man. Who is this young chap, anyway? Skylar followed the mayor's eyesight to the elven scholar that was standing with their group. His eyes went around the ballroom to take in the sights, and made no move to react to the mayor's questions. He doesn't know. I'm afraid I do not know. I was assuming he was connected to you. Me? Why would I have such a connection? I've never met the man in my life. Maybe because he was standing together chatting. The two men stared at each other in disbelief before shaking their heads and turning their attention to the young stranger. He's so pretty. Look at him. Short, raven hair, a deep blue overcoat balanced over his shoulders, jade earrings dangling from his pointed elven ears. His eyes were a hypnotic teal colour, the kind of colour that appeared to shift in hue as he gazed around the room in wonder. Sometimes an azure blue, sometimes a vibrant purple. It was like watching a petal on the wind, swaying and flipping in the breeze. Felinus found himself entranced by the way they shifted. He had never seen eyes of such a fascinating colour before. Well, well, well. Has someone caught the eyes of the elusive Lord Nicus Skylar? The alchemist snapped his focus away from the elven stranger, a look of near horror on his face. Whatever do you mean? I was merely... Skylar could feel his stomach sink as he felt the chubby hands close themselves firmly around his tail, an excited shriek piercing his sensitive ears. No, moons above, please not her, anyone but her. Mr. Skylar, my darling kitty! Lady Ogren. Skylar wanted nothing more than for the floor to open up and swallow him whole. Anything but being forced to endure that woman, whose hands would only tighten if he made an attempt to move or escape her grasp in any way. Rutherford quickly bowed and excused himself, mumbling something about forgetting to snuff the fire crystal on the stove. I gotta go, left the stove on. What? Baby boy, look at him. I really like the chibis that we did. We only had 3 CGs throughout the game, so I really wanted to add some more art for some of our comedic moments. There's a few more that I would have loved to have gotten, but we didn't have the time. But he's just so cute. I love him. He would make a good keychain too. I want him. You absolute coward. Come back here. Lady Ogren, please restrain yourself. The woman rubbed her face against the distressed Felinus's disheveled tail. This is pretty much just me whenever I see a cat. Just complete and utterly bothersome. Princess. He was completely and absolutely stuck. Experience told him Lady Ogren would not let him go on her own. And he could not simply shout for the princess to help him. My lady, your hat is simply wonderful. Wherever did you get it? While a simple distraction, it was enough for Skylar to remove his tail from the greedy hands of the noblewoman and retreat to an unoccupied corner of the ballroom. A timely intervention. I must make the effort to thank him later. The elven stranger had not said a word the entirety of the time they had been in each other's presence. He couldn't help but wonder why he had chosen that moment to finally speak up. Skylar let out a heavy sigh as he leant against a nearby wall, an exhaustion overcoming him that was unique to the slow release of a tense anxiety that gripped his entire being. With any luck, Lady Ogren had been truly distracted, and he could enjoy a moment of safety from the crowd. The favor you owe me will be a great one. I was promised no tail touches. My sincerest apologies, good sir. Oh, that's not who you thought it was. Ripped from his rest, the voice of a man reached him. It's him. Then where's... The stranger smiled at his surprise. You are quite safe, I assure you. A young knight came to check on the disturbance and reported the situation to Her Highness, the Princess. I expect her reaction will be quick, and she will join you once more shortly. The man stepped closer, concern filling his coloured gaze. But putting that aside, are you all right? No. That's not an answer one can freely give. I am significantly better the further away from that woman I am. Forgive my candidness, that was rude. Your intervention was most timely. You have my sincere thanks. The feloness bowed deeply to his elven protector, who merely smiled and shook his head. Nika Skylar, High Alchemist of Ashmire. A pleasure to make your acquaintance. The taller male bowed in return, but did not offer a name. Have you attended the Moonflower before? To anyone else, this question would be preposterous, but an elven life was just as lengthy as a feloness, both fey in different shapes. Are you... Oh, it's just wonderful. From the fascinating fashion to the way these people interact with each other and the decorations. I have never seen such a display of beauty. The food and drink is plentiful. The words are traded freely as water traveling down a stream. 1,000 questions rushed through Skylar's mind at the sight of this man's eyes glistening as he watched the ballroom in amazement. It certainly is a spectacle. Though it has made me wonder, what's it all for? What? Skylar stared at the man, dumbfounded. He was truly and utterly lost for words. What's it for? Yes, I have gleaned this is the first of 7 nights of a celebration. I am yet to fully grasp what purpose it serves, however. The stranger tilted his head in confusion, looking to Skylar for his answers before once again returning to his people watching. What a fascinating man. I think he says the himbo, really. Skylar had never met someone who captured his interest so organically. Realistically, he had merely existed in front of him. He had not done or said anything particularly interesting, and yet Skylar found he struggled to look away from him. Perhaps it boiled down to the connection between Fae. All had some latent connection to each other through the natural magics they shared. This felt different, though. He felt he had met this person before. Ask his name, or ask him to dance. Let's see. It's always hard when you are the one who have made the game because you know exactly what the right answers are. We are going to flirt and ask him to dance. Skylar shifted his position nervously. I can't help but notice you seem interested in the dancing. The man glanced at him, his eyes alight. Very much so. They move with such rhythm, and each knows exactly what the other is doing. They move like they're the only important things in the world. Would you like to give it a try? What am I thinking? Nika! Your princess has arrived, it seems. The elf bowed deeply to the pair, and in the time it took for them to register the action, he had disappeared like morning mist on the wind. Oh, he left. Unfortunately. Who was that? I do not recall seeing him before. Not at any royal functions or even around the city. I'm sure there's many people Her Royal Highness has never met or seen. I do not know, however. He made a very clear point to not offer his name to me. He wouldn't tell you? Skylar shook his head. he found himself both flustered and vexed by the encounter. Who exactly was he? So preoccupied with the mysterious stranger, the fellows failed to see the wicked smirk pass over the princess's face, a gentle hand tapping him on the forehead. What are you doing? Me? No, the garden gnome over there. Of course you. With a sweep of his arm, he removed the intruding hand, folding his arms across his chest in protest, an accusatory eyebrow raised. I've never seen you so distracted. I thought perhaps you'd fallen ill. Facetious as usual, my princess. Say what you mean, princess. Olivia crept closer to him, a mixture of both excitement and slight worry on her face. I mean exactly that, Nika. I've never seen you so distracted by someone before. Did something happen with that man? Nothing. Nothing happened whatsoever. Olivia's face changed again, and this time he could not fail to see her wicked grin, even if he had wanted to. Did you want it to? She raised her eyebrows suggestively, her entire demeanor ready to receive the ultimate gossip. Olivia! Did I? The princess giggled, her eyes twinkling with amusement and mischief. She leaned forward just an inch, slowly, like a cat teasing a mouse. You deny nothing. Never mind any of that. Skylar waved his hand dismissively, his heart hammering away in his chest at the prospect of being caught. Being caught? Nothing even happened. I have been handled and leered at quite enough tonight. Are we done? Her playful grin gave way to one of remorse. Please forgive me. I did not expect such an extreme reaction from Lady Elgrin. Even Minister Siebert was disgusted by the report. I'm sure he found it very entertaining. He believed it? I don't think he wanted to, but the knight who delivered the report seemed to have good standing, so he accepted it with ease. Knight Marshal Siddle's youngest son Wesley, I believe, if our mysterious stranger... If what our mysterious stranger said is to be believed. Lord Siddle? She gasped as the name registered in her mind. He seems like a fine lad, around your age, I would wager. I was unaware he had another son until I met him earlier, when you sent him to collect me. I sent the Knight Marshal's son on a collection errand? Indeed you did, Princess. I assure you he was most amiable to provide assistance to you. Quite a pleasant young man, actually. Olivia walked in several circles around her elder companion, her face wrinkled in thought. What troubles you, Princess? Never mind. How about I grant you a favor for my slip-up? A total of 2. So, she has been thinking of how to make up for her failed promise. Vera, your child is as troublesome as ever. I'll settle for a dance instead. I certainly can't have you over me twice. That is far too much power for a single person. Olivia paused, as if to ponder the offer for a moment. A dance will suffice. Skylar scoffed in response to her tone. Will suffice? The girl in front of him let out a short giggle, light and airy. You know, it is truly an honor to be accompanied by you, on or off the dance floor. Yes, it truly is. Skylar tipped his hat downward and offered his hand to the princess. We have one more person to check in with. Then we can dance to our heart's content. Don't give me that look. I cannot have my tail grabbed anymore today, my lady, for fear it would come off. This person would never be so callous. So you say. I do, yes. We are to meet the most important and certainly most noble man we both have the pleasure of knowing. Skylar sighed. He already knew exactly who Olivia was alluding to. The king. Olivia nodded. Yes. Father wanted to speak to us both before the ceremonies began. Must he? I mean no disrespect, of course. I think he means full disrespect. However, I'd hate to waste his time. My potions are of no concern to him and quite simple to understand. As the only one among us who has actually attended a moon fair before, and one of his esteemed subjects, I'm sure there's much he wishes to speak to you about. Olivia held her hand out and beckoned for the feloness to join her. Come along, Skylar. Now should be a good time. Okay, that was interesting. Might have just had an internet outage. The pair maneuvered through the crowd. Olivia stopped ever so often to curtsy to people who called out her name. For one so young, she has an exemplary grasp of statecraft. As expected, the king wasn't hard to spot, and Skylar's gaze locked onto him after only a moment. One would think he'd always have a crowd surrounding him, but it was fascinating to see the opposite effect. People were standing a distance away, cautiously awaiting the king's invitation. Had they not been summoned, they could only look in awe and wonder. For one who exhibits such intense buffoonery, Eamon truly is a fascinating and charismatic monarch. King Eamon Dunn, husband to Queen Vera Leth, and father to Princess Olivia Leth. Their reasons for differing surnames was no mystery. The royal line belonged and stayed with the female bloodline. Queen Vera refused to relinquish the name of her ancestor. King Eamon was the type of noble who was raised to be king. He was presented as one of the approved suitors for the then Princess Vera to choose from. The court was seen to once more have a king in place for the future. Or at the very least, someone far easier to control than the fiery royal Vera. He relished in the attention, but did little in terms of policy or governance. Most of it fell to his elite ministers. Royalty is truly exhausting. An opinion he shared with the royal advisor. The ever-suffering position given to his own predecessor, a role which Skylar was certain he would never take, no matter how much the Queen begged, should he ever decide to move on from the High Alchemist role himself. Olivia waved her hand in the air, then quickly pulled it back to her side once she realized her actions. Very ladylike. She cleared her throat, fixing a coy smile on her face. The noise drew the king's attention. A look of annoyance at being interrupted so brusquely clear on his face, a look which turned to joy as he laid his eyes on his precious daughter. The monarch muttered a few words to his current company, two elder males, before both nodded and backed away from the esteemed man. I edited this king sprite myself. I'm hoping soon to be able to get 2 new sprites for the game. I have a few free content updates planned in the very near future, if the game does well, that I'd really love to add. There's a lot that I still want to tell for this story, and a lot of things I'd still have to show. But we are getting 2 new sprites. One is the king, and one is a character that hasn't shown up yet. And I'm excited. The character that hasn't the character that hasn't shown up yet, I think he's gonna be really hot. The entire reason why I wanted his sprite. Same thing as with Wesley. It's just too good. I had to make him a sprite. King Eamon wasted no time making his way towards his daughter, embracing her in a dramatic twirl before lightly nodding his head towards the High Alchemist. "Father, please." The girl giggled as her father lowered her once more. "Olivia, my gorgeous love, where is your gown?" Olivia shook her head. "Tonight is a mere introduction to the festivities. I wanted to save it for the main event." "Save it, my dear, we're a new one each night. This is our moment to shine to the whole world." Skylar stood back from the pair Skylar stood as far back from the pair as he dared, without seeming rude. For all his flaws, he is a doting father, if overly so. Finally, the king turned his attention to the feloness. "High Alchemist, I was not made aware of your attendance tonight. I was under the distinct impression you had elected not to participate." Olivia made to answer, but the king affectionately petted her hand to silence her. He wanted his answer directly from the man he had questioned. He knows exactly what has happened. I can almost guarantee he forbade Olivia from extending the invitation, and she did so anyway. "That was my original plan, your most esteemed majesty." Skylar bowed deeply. A formal and posture-perfect action. Man, my brain just stopped working. Allowing the king to grunt in acknowledgement before rising once more. Olivia beside him wore a slight frown at the two men. Your indomitable heir, however, had a different plan. Pray forgive the lack of update to the guest list. Princess Olivia is quite impossible to decline. While annoyed at being talked into attending this garish event, he was simultaneously exceedingly proud of the competent young ruler Olivia was growing into. Indomitable was very much the correct word to describe her. She always managed to get others to see her point of view, to try whatever it was she suggested. Most were more than happy to follow her, but some others rejected the idea of such strength of character. The servants adored her kindness and lamented her free spirit. Yes, she is quite formidable indeed. I'm glad you agree. The king snapped his attention back to his daughter. But don't think that being Moonseer means you aren't my precious baby anymore. He reached out and kneaded at Olivia's cheeks. The woman scrambled to escape his tight grasp. "Father, please, you're embarrassing me." It was always funny to Skylar how Eamon made a show of age. Eamon tried his hardest to appear more worldly and cultured than the alchemist, more regal, more knowledgeable, more grown up. In the same breath, refusing to allow Olivia the same chance to grow and mature. The ageless appearance of the Fae often threatened monarchs in particular, faced with one who had seen before them and would see after them, all without a single sign of the passing time. Though years certainly passed by, only one of the pair saw wrinkles creased into their skin. "I'm glad that you have taken the time to come speak to me, Olivia. I take the festivities are to your liking. Everything is simply wonderful. You've done an incredible job, Father. I have never seen the palace or town so lively, or so heavily decorated." The girl giggled with wonder as she span around in a circle to look at the decorations. The moon fair symbolizes a refresh to our society, so we can continue to live the magical lives that we are entitled to. As my daughter has chosen you as her guard for this evening, I trust you will keep my daughter safe. The emphasis on his words was direct. Skylar was granted permission for this night only. Not that he wanted to spend any more of his time here. That was for certain. "Father, you're acting as if something can go seriously wrong. We both know the rites are harmless." "Not harmless. Everything could go wrong. Many of my requisition drafts are specifically designed to keep not only you but the Moonflower safe during the proceedings. With good fortune, most will not be needed." "My princess, I know you've been full of worry. Being named Moonseer is such a dreadful burden to have been thrust upon you. But I am sure you will make me very proud." Olivia pushed his words away. "All will go as planned, just as I've studied it." She's putting on a brave face, but I can see how nervous she really is for this big responsibility. King Eamon locked eyes with Skylar. "Moonseer is a dangerous role. See that what happened to the last one does not happen again." "Father!" Antagonized. We can respond, or we can ignore. We're gonna respond. Skylar's tail twitched in irritation. This may or may not be the actual correct answer, though. "With all due respect to your position, your majesty, the last Moonseer passed away before you were even born. Her role as Moonseer bears absolutely no relevance to her death. Although that death was likely orchestrated in an attempt to replace her as Moonseer." The king snarled at the feloness, his track taken. "My, such aggression from one of my own lords, and I am to trust my most precious possession to the one who would bear such brutish response to such a simple concern? Nika?" The face of the young princess was etched with worry. Her typically placid feloness had never spoken back to the king before. "This is Mama!" The princess stepped forward to reach out to him. The death of the previous Moonseer, his mother was not a topic he enjoyed, even less so when spoken of by the elites of the palace. It was a story that changed the lives of his family forever. A story with far-reaching consequences by short-sighted fools. Calm yourself. He baits you. He always baits you. If it pleases His Majesty, I would take my leave and allow you to enjoy the opening ceremony with your beloved daughter. It does. You are dismissed, High Alchemist. I thank you for your service tonight. Skylar smiled and bowed once more to the royals, before turning on his heel to leave. The devastated face of the princess burned itself into his mind as the felonious alchemist exited the ballroom with a determination rarely seen from him, stopping only briefly to whisper an instruction to not let her out of your sight to the young knight Wesley as he stormed past him. And with that, I think at almost 2 hours, I'm going to conclude this stream. I didn't even know if it worked. Hopefully it did. It'd be awkward if it didn't. Thank you for everyone who joined the stream. I did manage to see there was a couple of comments. So thank you for that as well. Moonflower is available now on Steam and Itch. We also have a guide available on our Discord and on the Itch page. I may do another live stream to keep going with the game later, or I may just pre-record it. Usually I pre-record. And upload to YouTube, but I thought it might be fun to do something live this time. I hope I hope this all worked. I don't know how to test it beforehand. Thank you for joining. And thank you. Thank you for joining, and I hope to see you all again on the channel soon. I haven't been able to record much lately. Game dev takes a lot of time. I am the writer, the programmer, the studio runner. Basically, I do pretty much everything that isn't art. Isn't art and music. And we have a lot of very talented people who join our games, and I am always so thrilled and thankful for everyone who lends their talents to our games. We could not do it without them. We are currently still running our launch discount for Moonflower at 15% off. I think it makes the game $11 or so in USD. There's so many different currencies. We also have a new bundle that we're a part of, the BL Lovers on Steam, where you can get Moonflower, and we've partnered with that with our bestest of friends at 2.5 Studios. You can also get their games Divine Speaker and Start Again in that bundle as well, and that's an incredible price at the moment, especially with all the discounts going on for the Storytellers Festival. So that's a great buy, I think. The Divine Speaker in particular is an incredible game. I worked on that as the audio editor, and many, many hours of my life, and I would not change any of them. So they are also someone that you should definitely check out. They're running the festival for Storytellers Festival, and they're amazing, incredible developers who I love so much. And they've helped so much with Moonflower as well. Gabby, who is one of the devs for 2.5 Studios, helped me edit Moonflower. Could not exist without them. So yeah, go check out the game. We've got a free demo. This stream has covered all that the demo showed. And I will maybe see you again shortly with the rest of the game. Feel free to join the Discord if you have any questions, comments. We also have a Patreon, which I'm probably not allowed to talk about on stream, which we show all of our progress, development, exclusive illustrations, all that fun stuff. Thank you so much, and I will see everyone later.